The first thing you notice isn't the gun. It's the smell. A thick, sweet-sour mix of overflowing dumpster and old rain that's been soaking into concrete for a decade. I was walking home, my mind a million miles away, probably thinking about what Lena wanted for dinner when the shove came. It wasn't just a push. A hand clamped on my shoulder, fingers digging in and propelled me off the sidewalk. I stumbled, my balance gone, into the narrow gap between a laundromat and a boarded-up butcher shop. My cheek scraped against the wet, gritty brick, and for one absurd second all I could think was, shit, this is my good jacket. A stupid, ridiculously normal thought right before my world ended. Then came the gun. It wasn't a loud click like in the movies. It was a small, heavy press against the base of my skull. A perfect, ice-cold circle of metal that seemed to suck all the heat and noise out of the world. The distant city traffic faded to a dull hum. My own breathing sounded impossibly loud in my ears. Every muscle in my body went rigid, locking me in place. I was a statue of pure, uncut terror, smelling the garbage and feeling the damp seep through the knee of my pants. "You know me, Finn," a voice rasped behind me, too close to my ear. It was low and gravelly, like the guy had been gargling rocks. But underneath the menace, there was a strange, phantom familiarity. A cadence from a past life, maybe a high school classroom or a crowded party. It was a puzzle my terrified brain couldn't begin to solve. My own voice came out as a pathetic squeak. I don't have much." My hands started to shake, a violent, uncontrollable tremor, so I raised them slowly, palms out, the universal sign for I'm not a threat, please don't kill me. "Oh, I know what you have," he said, and the gun pressed harder, a painful punctuation mark. "I've been watching, you have everything." The words were laced with a kind of deep, personal bitterness that was far more terrifying than simple greed. This wasn't just about my wallet. This was an audit of my life by someone I couldn't see. I tried to turn my head, but the pressure from the gun stopped me. All I could see was the grimy brick wall, the dark mouth of the alley, and the distant, mocking glow of the streetlights. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, and the only clear thought that broke through the static of fear was a single, desperate word. Lena, my fingers, clumsy and numb, fumbled for my back pocket. The worn leather of my wallet felt slick and foreign, like an artifact from a life I was no longer living. I pulled it out slowly, holding it between my thumb and forefinger as if it were a bomb. "Here," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Take it, it's all I have." I expected him to snatch it and run. That's what robbers do, but he didn't. He took the wallet, but the gun stayed pressed against my head. I could feel him flipping it open with one hand, a low, disgusted grunt. "This is it," he hissed, the words a spray of hot, sour air against my neck. "A couple $100 for a life like yours." The gun ground into my skull, a gesture of pure contempt. "You have no idea, do you, Finn? You just walk through the world and things just work out for you, the good job, the nice house, the perfect wife." My blood ran cold, this was it. He wasn't a robber, he was an executioner. I squeezed my eyes shut, a pathetic attempt to shield myself from the inevitable. I saw a flash of Lena's face, her smile at the breakfast table this morning. My whole body tensed, waiting for the blast that would tear everything apart. And then music, a gentle, plinking guitar intro. It was so out of place, so jarringly, beautifully normal that for a second I thought I was having a stroke, a final auditory hallucination. It was a song by the Wandering Echoes, an obscure indie band Lena adored, the same song she used as her ringtone. The pressure on my head vanished. I heard a frantic rustling, the sound of a hand digging into a jacket pocket. A rectangle of harsh, blue-white light suddenly illuminated the alley. I risked a glance over my shoulder. He was holding a smartphone, its screen glowing in the darkness. The light carved his face out of the shadows, sunken cheeks, a desperate look in his eyes, and a jagged scar running through his left eyebrow. A face I vaguely recognized from the back of a high school classroom. Caleb Jenkins, but that wasn't what made my breath catch in my lungs. It was the name on the screen, displayed in crisp digital letters under the incoming call notification. Lena. Caleb stared at the phone, his face transforming. The snarling rage dissolved, melting away into a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. His jaw went slack. A choked, gurgling sound escaped his throat. He looked from the phone screen to me, his eyes wide with a horror that dwarfed my own. He looked at me as if I were the monster, the ghost, the impossible thing that shouldn't exist. He dropped my wallet, the cards and cash spilled onto the wet, grimy pavement. He scrambled backward, tripping over his own feet, and bolted. He ran without a word, his footsteps echoing wildly down the alley until he was swallowed by the darkness, leaving me alone with the smell of garbage, the ghost of a familiar song, and a question that was infinitely more terrifying than a gun to the head. I don't know how long I stayed there, slumped against the brick wall. It could have been a minute or an hour. Time had dissolved into a thick, syrupy fog of adrenaline and confusion. Eventually, the shaking in my legs subsided enough for me to stand. My knees buckled, and I had to press a hand against the wall to steady myself. I looked down at my wallet, lying open on the ground, a sad little sacrifice that had been rejected. I mechanically picked it up, stuffing the scattered bills and cards back inside, my fingers still clumsy and disobedient. My first instinct was to call the police. That's what a normal person would do. You get mugged, you call 911. But as I reached for my own phone, a cold, paralyzing thought stopped me. What would I say? A guy from high school tried to rob me, but then he got a call from my wife and ran away screaming. They'd think I was drunk or crazy, they'd ask questions. They'd want to talk to Lena. And the thought of the police talking to Lena, it sent a spike of a new kind of fear, a cold and insidious dread right through my heart. It wasn't the hot, primal fear of the gun, it was the chilling fear of the unknown, so I didn't call the police, I just walked home. The 15-minute walk felt like a journey across a foreign country. Every passing car was a threat, every shadow held a face. The familiar neighborhood streets seemed sinister, the warm glow from my neighbor's windows like a lie. When I finally got the key in the lock, my hands were trembling so badly it took 3 tries. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The house was warm and smelled of lemon cleaner and the faint scent of Lena's perfume. It was the smell of safety, the smell of my life, but tonight it felt like a stage set. Lena was curled up on the sofa reading a book, a soft yellow lamplight pooling around her. She looked up when I came in, her brow furrowed with mild, wifely concern. "Finn, you're late, everything okay?" Her voice was calm, her expression was perfect. There was not a single crack in the facade. "Yeah," I heard myself say, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. "Yeah, just some guy tried to grab my wallet on the way home. He didn't get anything, I'm fine." She was instantly on her feet, her face a mask of worry. She came over, her hands fluttering over my arms, checking for injuries. "Oh my God, honey, are you hurt? Did you call the police?" "No, no, I'm okay, really. He got spooked and ran off." I let her hug me, my body stiff and unresponsive in her arms. I breathed in the scent of her hair, the familiar comfort of her embrace, but it was like hugging a stranger. I was looking over her shoulder at the life we had built, at the photos on the mantelpiece, and all I could see was the glowing screen in that dark alley. All I could see was her name, the perfect wife. The one Caleb Jenkins was terrified of. Sleep didn't come that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in the alley, the cold metal against my skull, the smell of rot in the air. But the image that truly haunted me, replaying on an endless, torturous loop, was Caleb's face in the phone's glow. The shift from predatory rage to sheer animal panic. What could do that to a man holding a gun? I lay beside Lena in the dark, listening to the soft, even rhythm of her breathing. The sound that had soothed me to sleep for 10 years now sounded like a ticking clock. I watched the faint rise and fall of her shoulders under the duvet. Who was she? Who was this woman I shared a bed with? The next few days were a special kind of hell. I was a ghost in my own life, going through the motions with a constant humming anxiety thrumming just beneath my skin. At work, I'd stare at spreadsheets, the numbers blurring into meaningless squiggles. At home, I became a detective in a crime I couldn't define. I started watching her, really watching her. It was the little things, the tiny details that my previously trusting mind had always smoothed over. The way she'd quickly angle her phone away when I walked into the room. The hushed, clipped phone calls she'd take in the garden, which she always explained away as just work stuff. The new, expensive-looking handbag she'd bought last week, shrugging it off with a casual, "Oh, this old thing. I got it on sale." We'd been talking about tightening our budget. When did she have the money for that? Each instance was nothing on its own. A week ago, I wouldn't have even registered them. But now they were clues. They were breadcrumbs leading me down a rabbit hole I was terrified to explore. My mind became a frantic, paranoid machine, connecting dots that might not even exist. Did she seem a little too interested in my life insurance policy when we updated it last year? Was that joke she made about me having an accident on the hiking trip really a joke? I felt like I was losing my mind. One moment I'd be looking at her as she laughed at a stupid TV show, and I'd feel a wave of guilt so profound it made me nauseous. This was Lena, my Lena. The woman who held my hand through my father's funeral, the woman who still made me coffee every single morning exactly how I liked it. I was a monster for even thinking these things. But then she'd turn her head, and in a certain light, her smile would look a little too sharp, her eyes a little too cold. And I'd be right back in that alley, the phantom pressure of the gun on my head, hearing Caleb's words, "the perfect wife." Was it admiration or was it a warning? My rational brain was at war with my gut, and the battlefield was my sanity. The fear from the robbery was gone, replaced by a deep, gnawing confusion that was 1,000 times worse. Edit. Wow, okay, this blew up. Didn't expect so many responses. Thanks everyone, I'm reading them all and it's a lot. A bunch of you are asking the same thing. Why didn't you go to the cops immediately? Look, I get it. It's the logical thing to do. But you have to understand, sitting in that alley after he ran, my brain just short-circuited. It wasn't a normal mugging. Normal muggers don't run away because they get a phone call. How do I explain that to a cop? Yeah, officer, I think my wife might be connected to the guy who just held a gun to my head. They'd look at me, then they'd look at her, calm, collected, beautiful Lena, and they'd think I was having a psychotic break. They'd probably ask her if I'd been acting erratically lately, and you know what? She'd say yes, because I've been a jumpy, paranoid wreck. She'd be the concerned wife, and I'd be the crazy husband. They'd take me in for a psych evaluation before they'd ever look twice at her. Someone else asked if I could just check her phone records. I thought about it. Believe me, I've thought about nothing else, but that feels like a point of no return. The minute I do that, I'm admitting that I believe, truly believe, that the woman I love is capable of what? Hiring a guy to kill me. It's insane. I'm not ready to cross that line. Not yet. I keep hoping I'll find some other explanation, a logical one, a coincidence. Anything but the truth I'm afraid of. One comment on the thread stuck with me. Someone, a user named Just a Librarian, wrote, "Stop looking for emotional proof, you're spiraling. Look for a factual connection, no matter how small. People are lazy. Criminals are even lazier. They reuse things. Names, places, people. A factual connection." The thought was like a single, solid rock in the middle of my swirling ocean of paranoia. What was the one fact I had? Caleb Jenkins, and his claim, "You know me, Finn, high school." It was a long shot, a desperate grasp at a straw, but it was something to do. That night after Lena was asleep, I went to the attic. The air was thick with the smell of dust and old paper. After 20 minutes of digging through boxes of forgotten college textbooks and holiday decorations, I found it, my senior year high school yearbook, the Northwood Beacon, class of '8. I took it downstairs to the kitchen table, the single overhead light creating a small island of clarity in the dark house. I wiped the dust off the cover and opened it. The pages were stiff, filled with the smiling, hopeful faces of strangers I'd once known. I flipped to the J's and there he was, Jenkins, Caleb. The photo was small and grainy, but it was him. The same sunken cheeks, the same intense eyes, minus the scar and the desperation. He was just a quiet, unremarkable kid in a badly fitting shirt. No club affiliations listed under his name, just a face in the crowd. It was a dead end. He was just some guy I'd happened to go to school with. It could be a coincidence. My heart sank. Maybe I was crazy after all. Dejected, I started to flip aimlessly through the pages, the faces of the prom queen and the football captain blurring past. I was about to close the book when my thumb brushed past the section on clubs, the drama club, and there, in the center of the main cast photo for the spring production of our town, was Lena. Of course, she was the star. She was always the star. She was beautiful, talented, radiating a confidence that seemed almost supernatural back then. I smiled, a genuine, sad smile, remembering how I'd had a crush on her even then from afar. I stared at her smiling face, and my eyes drifted over the rest of the photo. The supporting cast, the stagehands, the kids in the background. My gaze scanned the rows of awkward teenagers and stopped. There, in the back row, half hidden behind a piece of scenery. A boy not looking at the camera like everyone else, but looking sideways, looking directly at Lena. His expression was one of complete, utter adoration. A kind of painful, worshipful intensity that was deeply unsettling. It was Caleb Jenkins. The yearbook slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the table. The sound was like a gunshot in the silent house. It wasn't a coincidence, it was a connection, a factual connection. He hadn't been watching me all these years, he'd been watching her. And that night in the alley, his resentment, his anger, it wasn't just about my money or my house. It was about my life. The life he felt should have been his with her. A cold, horrifying clarity washed over me. Lena hadn't just stumbled into a relationship with some random admirer. She knew, she must have known about his obsession. And a dark, terrible thought began to form in my mind. Maybe, just maybe, she had decided to use it. I didn't confront her. What was the point? There was no tangible proof, nothing I could take to the police, nothing that wouldn't make me sound like a man who had completely lost his grip on reality. All I had was a grainy photo and a 20-year-old book and a gut-wrenching certainty that felt as solid as concrete. I just sat there in the dark kitchen until the sun came up, the open yearbook a silent testament on the table. The man who had sat down in that chair hours ago was gone, replaced by this hollowed-out stranger. When Lena came downstairs, cheerful and refreshed, she saw me immediately. Her smile faltered. "Finn, what are you doing? You're still in yesterday's clothes." She came closer, her brow knitting in that familiar, perfect expression of concern. She saw the yearbook. "What's that out for? A trip down memory lane?" I looked up at her. I looked at the face I had woken up next to for 10 years, the face I had loved more than anything in the world. And I felt nothing, just a vast, cold emptiness. The love, the trust, the shared history, it had all been burned away in the alley, incinerated by the light of a phone screen. She was a stranger. Or worse, she was a monster I had been sleeping next to. I survived the robbery. I walked away physically unharmed. But I understood then that the real cost of that night wasn't my wallet or my sense of safety. The cost was my life, the life I thought I had. It was an illusion, a beautifully constructed lie, and Caleb Jenkins, in his pathetic, terrifying way, had accidentally ripped the curtain down. I was alive, but everything that had made my life worth living was dead. The gun had gone off after all. Final update, thanks everyone, your comments, they helped more than you know. Just having strangers believe me kept me anchored when I felt like I was drifting away. You were right, I wasn't crazy. I packed a bag that morning while she was in the shower. I took the yearbook, it's the only thing that feels real anymore. I'm staying at a motel a few states away, using cash for everything. I'm safe now, I think. But I'm also completely and utterly alone. I guess that's the price of seeing the truth.